I won the lottery, and I'm leaving you, Lila. It's time I found someone who truly believes in me." The words hung in the air like a suffocating fog as Derek stared me down across the living room. My heart pounded, threatening to burst from my chest. This had to be some sick joke. "What are you saying?" I stammered, glancing at my sister Nora and Derek's friend Alex, who wore equally dumbfounded expressions. Derek's lips curved into a self-satisfied smirk as he produced a lottery ticket from his pocket and waved it in front of my face. "Feast your eyes on our golden ticket to freedom, my dear." My legs felt like jelly as the gravity of his announcement hit me. You won the lottery? And you're leaving me?" "That's right," he nodded, his eyes narrowing. "I'm finally getting out from under your doubting shadow and living like I deserve with someone who supports my dreams." The cruel insinuation of his words stung like acid. Was this truly the man I married 5 years ago? The one who once showered me with affection and appreciation? "Derek, I've always supported you," I cried out, desperate for him to see reason. "Your inventions, your business ideas, I believed in you every step of the way." He let out a mocking laugh. "You expect me to believe that? I saw the skepticism in your eyes whenever I pitched a new concept, the way you'd grit your teeth and nod along, just indulging my silly fantasies." My mouth hung open, a retort dying on my lips as my mind raced for a counter-argument. How could I convince him of something he was so resolutely convinced wasn't true? "You're delusional." Nora's shrill voice pierced the tension, her eyes blazing as she stepped forward. "Lila has been nothing but a supportive, loving wife to your sorry ass." "Stay out of this," Derek snarled at her, whipping his gaze back to me. "I'm doing us both a favor and sparing you the agony of waiting for me to succeed. With this lottery jackpot, I can finally surround myself with people who genuinely want to see me soar." As his vicious words swirled around me, stealing the breath from my lungs, the true depth of his betrayal became painstakingly clear. He wasn't just leaving me, he was leaving me for someone else. Someone he claimed appreciated his ambitions in a way I apparently hadn't. I opened my mouth to speak, to hurl back the venom he'd spewed at me, but Nora beat me to it. "You low-life scumbag," she shouted, lunging forward as if to attack, before Alex swiftly wrapped his arms around her, restraining her flailing limbs. "Don't you dare stand there and act like you're doing Lila a favor. You're just a selfish snake looking to trade her in for some young, naive thing who worships your ego." Derek's eyes widened momentarily at her outburst, before narrowing again in derision. "You'll see," he muttered darkly. "You'll all see." With that parting shot, he spun on his heel and stormed out, slamming the front door behind him with a resounding thud that shook the walls. In the ensuing silence, I sank shakily onto the couch, the lottery ticket still clutched in my trembling hands. The stark numbers seemed to taunt me. A prize beyond my wildest dreams that should have been a joyous blessing, now marred by the harsh reality of the husband who had won it. This was my life now. My marriage in shambles, my heart in pieces. All because Derek had come into an obscene amount of money and allowed it to warp his perception of everything we once had. As tears streamed down my cheeks, I felt Nora's arms encircle me from behind, her quiet sobs mingling with mine. Beside us, Alex stared off into the distance, his expression haunted by the ugly scene he'd just witnessed. This was the hand I'd been dealt. But no amount of wealth was worth sacrificing my dignity, my self-worth. Derek's cruel rejection would not be my undoing. It would be the spark that ignited an unquenchable fire of vengeance within me. He wanted to see someone who truly believed in him? I'd make sure the whole world saw Derek Jefferson for the delusional, egomaniacal traitor he really was. The next few days passed in a blur of anger, heartache, and disbelief. Derek's words continued to echo in my mind, that outrageous claim of me not believing in his dreams. The more I relived that terrible night, the more convinced I became that his insane justification for leaving hid an even uglier truth. "There has to be more to this," I told Nora one morning over coffee, my hands trembling as I clutched the ceramic mug. "Derek has lost his mind if he truly believes the lies he's telling himself." Nora nodded grimly. "That arrogant jackass is hiding something, I know it." She leaned forward, her brow furrowed. "Have you tried calling him again?" "A dozen times," I sighed. "He's not answering." "Of course not. He's too busy rolling around in his lottery millions with his new delusional worshiper by his side." my fists clenched involuntarily at her words. There's no way he's dumb enough to blow all that money catering to the whims of some vapid gold-digging hussy. Except the more I thought about it, the more it made twisted sense. My throat constricted as a horrid suspicion formed. Oh, God. What if that's his plan? What if he's already found a woman just as narcissistic as he is, who will happily live off his winnings while feeding his ego? You think he's got someone lined up already? Nora looked aghast. That's low, even for him. Jaw clenched. I dug out my phone and began scrolling through missed calls, finally hovering over the contact info for Alex, Derek's best friend from college. He always saw through Derek's bullshit. Maybe he had some insight. The line rang twice before Alex answered, his tone guarded. Lila, what's up? I need to know everything, I stated bluntly, taking a fortifying sip of coffee. Everything you know about what's really going on with Derek and his big lottery dreams. There was a heavy pause before Alex sighed heavily. To be honest, I'm not sure I want to get in the middle of this mess. White-hot anger flared within me, burning away my composure. Don't give me that crap, I snapped, my voice rising. Your idiot buddy just destroyed a 5-year marriage based on one insane, narcissistic delusion after another. You're damn right you need to get in the middle of it and tell me what you know. Another pause. Then, okay, you're right. I could picture Alex rubbing his temples as he continued in a low voice. A couple weeks ago, Derek was bragging to me about how he scored big with that lottery prize. He exhaled heavily. But he also mentioned some girl he'd been seeing behind your back, an influencer or something, way younger than him. What? I gasped, feeling like I'd been punched in the gut as the reality sank in. He's been cheating on me? Yeah, and from what I could gather, his big plan was to use the lottery money to wine and dine this chick into being his new guaranteed pay pig for life, all while making it seem like she's just this huge supporter of his entrepreneurial spirit or whatever. The mug slipped from my hand, shattering on the floor and splashing hot coffee across the tile. Derek's betrayal sliced through me deeper than any serrated blade ever could. Not only was he leaving me in the cruelest way imaginable, he was happily trading me in for the shallower pleasures of a materialistic, status-obsessed bimbo. As if sensing my inner turmoil, Alex continued in a wary tone. I tried warning him that what he was doing was beyond screwed up, but you know how Derek gets when his mind is made up on something crazy. I always thought his arrogance stemmed from some deep-seated insecurity, I said thickly, my throat burning with unshed tears. But this is a new low that I never imagined. Through the haze of shock and heartbreak, one thought began to take form. A terrible, irresistible desire to make Derek pay for the anguish he'd put me through, to show him the consequences of his betrayal, starting with the woman he meant to discard me for. I met Nora's gaze, an unspoken understanding passing between us. Get me everything you can on this so-called influencer, I stated, my voice hard. Every social media account, every fan page, anything to give me ammunition against the little harlot trying to steal my husband. Nora's lips curved into a vindictive smirk. Oh, I'll do better than that, sis. She whipped out her phone, fingers flying across the screen. By the time we're done, this attention-starved bimbo is going to wish she never laid eyes on Derek Jefferson's selfish ass. My own smile mirrored the icy promise of vengeance brewing within me. The delusion was over. Derek and his new prize were about to face the harsh sting of reality, and I would be the one delivering the painful wake-up call. That low-life scumbag! The words erupted from my lips like venom as I slammed my palms on the kitchen table, glaring at the picture of Derek grinning next to his vapid influencer fling. Alex shifted uncomfortably beside me, his expression pained. I know, Lila. Believe me, seeing him throw away your marriage for this bimbo makes me sick too. Well, we're going to make him regret it. My voice dripped with steely determination as I turned to face my unexpected ally. In the aftermath of Derek's bombshell betrayal, it was Alex who had stepped up as a steady source of support and inside information. While Nora busied herself uncovering every sordid detail about the social media starlet latching onto my ex like a parasite, Alex had filled me in on more of Derek's twisted motivations. Apparently, Derek's lottery delusion ran even deeper than I'd realized. He was convinced this cow cam model with a rapper bod, as Nora crudely dubbed her, was the only one who could appreciate his entrepreneurial spirit. The perfect accessory to flaunt his wealth and prop up his crumbling ego. We have to hit him where it hurts, take away the two things he cares about most, Alex stated grimly. His money and his inflated sense of self-importance. I nodded, my jaw setting. And thanks to you, I have the evidence to do just that concerning his lottery winnings. A twisted smile played across my lips as I retrieved the faded convenience store photo tucked in my pocket, an image of Alex, Derek, and I smiling and holding up our fateful lottery ticket from years ago. The very ticket Derek was now trying to claim full ownership over. Once the truth comes out about us being partners on this prize, his plans to bankroll a lavish lifestyle for himself and his new arm candy fling are going to hit one hell of a financial roadblock. Not to mention the PR nightmare it'll cause when the world realizes what an egotistical, manipulative dirtbag he really is. Nora strode into the room, fire blazing in her eyes as she slapped a thick manila folder on the table. Speaking of which, I've got enough dirt on the so-called influencer to make their heads spin. Sliding the folder toward me, she flipped it open to reveal a myriad of social media posts. Selfies of the heavily made-up, surgically enhanced blonde posing and pouting, her shrill captions overflowing with narcissistic hashtags and vapid catchphrases. Her real name is Belinda Stone, 24 years young and dumb as a brick. Nora's tone dripped with contempt, originally from a wealthy family who cut her off once she got too absorbed chasing internet fame and fortune to care about anything else. My stomach churned with revulsion as I absorbed the evidence of this woman's unabashed vanity, materialism, and willful ignorance. No wonder Derek was enamored. She was essentially a funhouse mirror version of himself. We have to take her down, along with that ego-bloated pig she's parading around with, I declared, steadying my nerves with a deep inhale. Expose every dirty secret, every con, every pathetic ploy for attention they're attempting to pull. Alex let out a low whistle as he scanned the damning information Nora had gathered. Starting to feel sorry for these two, the more I see how sadistic your revenge is going to be. A harsh laugh escaped my lips. Don't feel too sorry, they're the ones reaping what they sowed. Resting a hand on the folder, I met Alex's gaze, my eyes hardening. Once the world sees them for the shallow, manipulative frauds they are, Derek and his little harlot won't have an ounce of admiration or respect left to feed their delusional narcissism. A grim smile crossed Nora's face as she gave a resolute nod. Time to watch the shit hit the fan, sis. I mirrored her expression, feeling the familiar flames of rage mingle with a deep, vindictive satisfaction. Indeed it is. Derek wanted to see someone who truly believed in him? By the time I was through, the whole world would see just how unworthy he was of anyone's belief or devotion. The painful downfall of his sickening delusions would serve as the harshest slap of reality. And I wouldn't stop until his despicable arrogance was shattered into a million irreparable pieces. This better work. The hushed words slipped through clenched teeth as I stared at the screen, watching the final edits to the video Nora had meticulously crafted. My sister flashed me a reassuring smirk. Relax, sis. This is like dangling bloody chum in front of a great white shark. Belinda will take the bait, hook, line, and sinker. I shuddered inwardly, still uneasy about deploying such underhanded tactics. But after learning the full extent of Derek's betrayal and Belinda's part in it, any moral compunctions I had were overshadowed by my thirst for vengeance. They needed to pay. To have their deceit and shallowness shoved back in their smug faces for the whole world to witness. Nodding resolutely, I clicked the upload button, and within seconds, the video began spreading across the internet like a virus. A perfectly curated look at the affluent, glamorous life I was now supposedly leading post-divorce. Strategic shots highlighted a luxurious and tastefully decorated home, designer clothes and accessories draped across every surface, even a sleek new sports car parked in the driveway with a bright red bow planted on the hood. Of course, none of it was real. Just one big, elaborately staged deception made possible through Nora's media connections and an underground production team specializing in fabricating fake realities. That smug tramp won't know what hit her. Nora grinned viciously, scrolling through the slew of comments already pouring in from confused onlookers, speculating about my newfound wealth. Holy crap, look at all the thirsty dudes already slobbering over those bikini shots. She let out a mocking laugh. I almost feel bad for how badly we're going to break their desperate little hearts. Any glimmer of guilt I felt was extinguished as I stared at the still images showcasing my toned body draped in attention-grabbing swimwear around a glistening private pool. A far cry from the modest one-pieces I usually favored. Plastering on a saccharine smile and pouty expression took more effort than I cared to admit. But playing into the delusion, putting on a facade, was the only way to make this sting as painfully as it needed to for Belinda and Derek. Because that was their greatest downfall, letting ego and vanity blind them from appreciating what really mattered in life. Integrity, honor, mutual understanding and sacrifice in a relationship rather than selfish delusion. Does this go too far? I asked uncertainly, watching the spectacle spread further across various social platforms. I mean, is there a line we're crossing into dangerous territory? Alex's voice made me jump as he emerged from the kitchen, a mug of coffee in hand. Nah, don't overthink it. You're just giving the soulless narcissists a taste of their own medicine. There was an edge of bitterness to his tone that surprised me, but I supposed seeing his oldest friend spiraling into egomaniacal delusion would breed resentment in anyone. Soon as Belinda thinks you've become the richer, spiteful ex out for revenge against Derek through shameless flaunting, she'll come sniffing around to ingratiate herself. Alex shook his head in disgust. Self-preservation is all that talentless leech cares about. Exactly. Nora stabbed a finger at the screen, where several tabloid reports were already emerging about my mysterious new fortune. She'll see this diamond-studded opportunity dangling in front of her shallow eyes and do whatever it takes to latch on. Glancing between my co-conspirators, I felt a swell of gratitude for their unwavering support and willingness to go to such depraved lengths in the name of karma and revenge. I couldn't have executed such an elaborate ruse alone. With a steadying breath, I straightened my shoulders and tightened my resolve. Whatever lines we had to cross in the coming days, it would all be worth it to pry Derek and Belinda out of their self-indulgent fantasies. Once their true, ugly natures were exposed under the harsh global spotlight, not even their ill-gotten lottery winnings could shield them from the crushing downfall that awaited. This charade would either make them face reality or completely unhinge them as their world of delusion came crumbling down. And I would be the merciless instigator, ensuring that total cathartic ruination occurred. The shrill ring of my phone shattered the tense silence that had settled over the room. Nora and I exchanged a loaded glance before I snatched it up, my heart pounding. Hello? Lila? Oh my God, is it really you? The sugary sweet voice on the other end made my skin crawl with revulsion. It's Belinda. I had to resist the urge to hurl the phone across the room. Of course, the vapid leech was slithering her way back into my life, her greed overriding any sense of shame or decency. Fighting to keep my tone even, I replied, Yes, it's me, Belinda. I take it you've seen the footage circulating about my new lifestyle? Girl, yes, it's absolutely incredible, she gushed in that gratingly vacuous way of hers. I mean, those houses, those cars, those designer bikinis, you're living the dream. My lip curled involuntarily. If only this delusional bimbo knew the true extent of her mistakes in aligning herself with a man like Derek. But she would soon enough. Well, I'll admit the past few months have been... I paused, as if considering my words carefully. Liberating, shedding the dead weight from my life and stepping into my own self-made fortune has been euphoric, really. A heavy silence fell as Belinda absorbed the not-so-subtle dig at my ex-husband and her new money-grubbing beau. But her desperation for hollow status symbols eventually overpowered any reluctance. You know, I always had a feeling you were too good for that loser, she cooed, her phony sweetness morphing into undisguised envy, especially now that he's squandering away those lottery millions on ridiculous pipe dreams that are doomed to fail. I inhaled sharply, equal parts disgusted and infuriated by her blatant attempt to drive a wedge between Derek and myself. As if basking in her ill-gotten gains wasn't enough, she had to try and twist the knife more. Well, you're certainly free to think what you want about Derek's life choices, I replied coolly, catching Nora's gaze and giving an infinitesimal nod. She sprang into action immediately, keying up the prepared video files and patching through to the live feed I had routed to every major news network. Although, I continued smoothly, staring dead ahead at the camera light now blinking, I think the world deserves to hear your take on things from your own lying, opportunistic mouth. There was a confused pause before Belinda's sugary tone hardened with suspicion. Lila? What are you talking ab? But her words were drowned out by a deafening feedback whine as our call was broadcast on every screen from Times Square to L.A. Her perfectly made-up face, twisted in bewilderment, suddenly plastered across millions of homes. You see, Belinda, I stated, my voice ringing with furious conviction, my newfound wealth is just as much of a facade as your self-proclaimed influence over the sad, desperate fools who hang on your every Instagram post. Leaning forward, I braced my hands on the desk and leveled my gaze directly at the camera's unblinking eye. The truth is, we've all been taken for a ride by two outrageous con artists, consumed by delusion, greed, and their own narcissistic pursuit of fame and fortune at any cost. My finger stabbed viciously at the image of Derek now appearing beside Belinda, his expression one of abject horror as he realized our private conversation was being broadcast for the world to hear. This low-life scumbag you've so readily attached your vapid ambitions to didn't just cheat on his wife and mother of his children, he tried to claim the entirety of a lottery jackpot. He didn't even win alone. I was shaking with rage, but a vicious sort of glee burned within me at seeing the blood drain from Derek's face as the video feed switched to authenticated footage of him, Alex, and I purchasing the fateful lotto ticket years ago. Every duplicitous act, every underhanded scheme, every conniving lie that both Derek and Belinda had spun to feed their ego, I unleashed it all in one brutal, damning torrent, letting the truth scorch away their fragile delusions before a captive audience of millions. And as the look of smug indifference melted off Belinda's face to be replaced by abject horror, I felt a twisted sense of gratification at the fractures already splintering through her and Derek's sad, self-indulgent fantasies. This was only the beginning of their downfall. I would make sure of it. I would not rest until their hollow lives were shattered into a million pieces, paying penance for every ounce of pain and disillusionment they'd put me through. Steeling my nerves, I met Derek's terrified gaze burning through the screen and allowed a cold smirk to crease my lips. This is for all those times you accused me of never believing in you, Derek. Well, believe me when I say, this nightmare is only just beginning. The ballroom was packed, every eye locked on the center stage as I ascended the steps and approached the podium. My heels clicked loudly against the polished wood, the only sound in that breathless hush. This was it, the final phase of my months-long vendetta. One last chance to drive the knife into the rotting heart of Derek and Belinda's sham relationship before a crowd of their erstwhile admirers. One corner of my mouth curled into a vindictive smirk. They'd slithered their way onto the guest list for this self-congratulatory gala, under the delusion they could ingratiate themselves, soil their way into high society's good graces. Little did those two vapid fools realize they were the ones being played for fools. The air was thick with palpable tension as I reached the podium. Leaning forward, I let my eyes bore into the squirming figures of Derek and Belinda situated at a front table, their arrogant expressions crumbling beneath my unrelenting glare. Friends, esteemed colleagues, I began, my voice rippling through the cavernous chamber. I'd like to extend my gratitude for your presence here tonight at this annual celebration of entrepreneurial spirit and community innovation. Murmurs of polite applause spread through the crowd before I silenced them with an upraised hand. However, as many of you are no doubt aware, there exists a serpent lurking in our midst. I paused, letting the weight of my next words sink in. A vile deceiver who has brazenly perverted the symbols of success and self-made prosperity we honor here for his own ego-driven delusions of grandeur. Belinda bristled at the obvious slight, shooting an accusatory glare at Derek, who shrank in his chair like a kicked dog. How bitterly ironic that his craving for validation had turned the woman he sought it from against him within moments. You all know who I'm referring to, I stated, my lip curling with disgust. Derek Jefferson, A narcissistic, emotionally stunted leech who lied, cheated, and manipulated everyone around him in pursuit of the trappings of fortune. It was like a dam bursting at those words, the once polite crowd erupting into shouts of condemnation and outrage. Caught completely off guard by my vicious assault, Derek jerked upright, his eyes swiveling in panic. "That's not true," he barked futilely over the din, before pointing a shaking finger at me. "She's the one who never believed in me, who tried to tear me down at every turn." The crowd's scorn intensified tenfold at his pitiful deflection, hisses and boos raining down on him until his face purpled. "Silence!" I roared, raising my voice above the furor. As the room stilled once more, I leaned towards the podium, lips curling into a sneer. "I did believe in you, Derek. I believed you were a good man once, until your arrogance and greed twisted you into this delusional, hate-filled stranger before us now." My steely gaze landed on Belinda next, watching her shrink under my withering contempt. "As for your pathetic sidekick, well, need I say more than she's living proof of the depths to which you've allowed your ambition and ego to corrode your morality and self-worth?" Slamming my palms on the podium, I straightened, fury blazing in my eyes. "So go ahead, shroud yourselves in as much counterfeit wealth and materialism as you desire to mask your inescapable insecurities. At your empty, rotted cores, you're nothing more than snake oil salesmen, profiteering off lies and exploiting the ambitions of others for your own soulless gain." From the back of the ballroom, a loud cry cut through the silence. "You make me sick, man." I smirked, recognizing Alex's voice as he stepped forward, derision etched across his face as he locked eyes with the man he once considered a friend. "All this time using people and spinning lies to support your sad power trip? And for what?" As the crowd swelled around him with murmurs of agreement, Alex jabbed an accusing finger at the stunned pair. "You gave up relationships, sacrificed integrity, your entire value system, all for this flagrant ego trip of a sham empire. Well, joke's on you, Jefferson, because the only thing more bankrupt than your finances is your self-respect." Somewhere within the throng of voices condemning them, I heard Belinda's shrill tones pleading with Derek for answers, demanding to know the extent of his latest betrayal. Their toxic, symbiotic relationship of narcissism and self-delusion finally fracturing under its own weight. At the eye of the storm, Derek resembled a scared child, stunned into silence by the harsh, unrelenting reality crashing down upon him. The karmic wheel spinning payback for his inflicted unraveling. Meeting my gaze one last time, his eyes held the slightest flicker of raw emotion. Fear, betrayal, simmering hatred, all roiling together. In that moment I reflected not on the monster he'd become, but the man whose love and faith I'd once cherished. I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no anguish, just empty vindication. And as the roaring wave of scorn swallowed him whole, I turned my back and strode away, content to let the tides of public opinion and karma's bitter justice sweep Derek under for good, this time. The roar of the crowd was deafening as I stepped out into the marbled lobby, flanked by Nora and Alex. But the vengeful cheers and chants felt strangely hollow, like a dull thud reverberating through my bones. "I can't believe we finally did it," Nora breathed, her eyes alight with vindictive triumph. That oily snake and his cheap tramp got exactly what was coming to them. I should have felt elated in that moment, relieved that my months-long quest to expose Derek and Belinda's sham had reached its climactic peak. Instead, I only felt numb. Perhaps it was the sobering reminder that no amount of public shaming or loss of status could undo the damage of Derek's ultimate betrayal. Or maybe, deep down, I mourned having to bury the shredded remnants of the man I once loved. A familiar voice shattered my turbulent thoughts. Well, if it isn't the mastermind herself. Derek's acidic sneer hit me like a slap as he pushed through the crowd still loitering outside, Belinda trailing miserably behind him. You ruined everything." The blonde's voice cracked with equal parts fury and despair as she rounded on me. "All that effort, all those lies and manipulations trying to claw my way into high society, undone by your sad, jealous revenge ploy." I regarded her coolly as she fought to maintain her poise, straightening her bedazzled gown with trembling hands. "I may have been delusionally chasing vapid social status and wealth, but at least I still have my dignity. She spat the words with as much venom as she could muster amidst the tattered ruins of her facade. "You're a sad, empty husk masquerading as a self-righteous icon of morality," Derek hissed, his eyes glittering with pure venom. "But I see the truth. Lila, you're just as desperate and spiteful as the day I left you behind." His lips twisted into a mocking leer. "Couldn't handle the fact that I'd finally surpassed your meager expectations for me, risen above the limitations you tried shackling me. The delusional rant was cut off by a harsh slap, the crack echoing through the lobby. Derek recoiled, clutching his reddened cheek as Alex stepped forward, eyes blazing. "That's enough out of you, you arrogant bastard." His voice dripped with disgust. "The fact you're still trying to play the martyr here just proves how completely delusional you are." Derek opened his mouth to respond, but Alex barreled onwards. "You were my friend once, Derek. We had dreams, ambitions, but you let greed and narcissism consume you until you alienated everyone who gave a damn." Shaking his head slowly, he glanced over at the shuddering wreck of a woman clinging to Derek's arm. "Both of you deserve each other's vapid, hollow company, living the rest of your days shrouded in self-denial and meaningless status trappings." Alex's gaze hardened into a glare as it swung back to lock with Derek's, his voice turning to steel. "I just hope, when you hit rock bottom after poisoning yourselves on those delusions, that you remember what it cost you to throw away everyone who actually gave a damn." A tense silence fell over the lobby, until I felt Nora's hand on my arm, pulling me gently away. "Come on, sis, let's leave these sad losers to rot in the mess of their own making." As we turned to head for the exit, Belinda's voice rang out, desperate and pleading. "Wait!" She lurched forward, clutching Derek's arm in a white-knuckled grip. Just tell me one thing, Lila." Her eyes searched mine, wide and haunted. Is it true? Was everything a lie? This whole relationship, Derek's ambitions, our entire future planned out together? For a moment I considered lying to her, letting her delude herself a little longer before the imminent crash back to reality. But one look at the broken shell of a woman before me, and I knew even the slightest white lie would be too cruel. "Yes, Belinda," I stated simply, letting the truth sink in like a dagger between her ribs. It was all a lie, just empty delusions built on a foundation of greed and ego. Derek regarded me with a mix of fury and dawning horror, as if the gravity of what he'd sacrificed was just starting to take hold. But I felt no pity, no sorrow, only the faintest twinge of lamentful nostalgia for the man whose potential had led me to fall for him once upon a time. Lacing my fingers through Nora's, I guided us past the dissolving wreckage of Derek and Belinda's sham relationship without a second glance. As the revolving doors closed behind us, I steeled myself for the new chapter awaiting me beyond this painful era. Stripping the scales of delusion from my eyes was just the start of a long journey towards rediscovering my self-worth and independence. But at least now I could begin that path unburdened by the hollow shackles of arrogance and lies that had dragged me down for far too long. Chapter 8. New Beginnings. 6 months later, I stood in the shadow of the gleaming high-rise that housed my new business headquarters and took a deep, contented breath. The brisk spring air was a welcome tonic, a sensory reminder of the fresh start and rebirth I was finally allowing myself after so many months of being bogged down in darkness and anger. "Can you believe this place, sis?" Nora looped her arm through mine, her eyes shining with pride as she surveyed our newly established empire. All stemming from that vindictive little revenge scheme that put that douchebag Derek in his place. My lips quirked into a small smile. In the aftermath of my very public dismantling of my ex-husband's rampant delusions, the settlement I received from our divorce proceedings, coupled with my share of the lottery winnings, had afforded me ample opportunity to invest in new ventures. And with Nora's marketing and branding genius as my co-pilot, we rapidly transformed that influx of cash into a burgeoning multimedia corporation dedicated to empowering women who'd suffered at the hands of greedy, self-serving men like Derek. It was strangely fitting, really, allowing the ashes of my former marriage to smolder and ignite the flames of a new, self-made legacy. A firm rebuttal to the notion I had ever tried to stifle Derek's dreams and ambitions. The guy was a delusional, narcissistic train wreck from day one. I just happened to be the one miraculously cashing in on the fallout. You know Alex is still reeling over us donating a chunk of our launch capital to his counseling program for disadvantaged youth. Nora shook her head in amazement. Guy was practically in tears when he found out. He deserves it, I stated simply, squeezing her arm. God knows he endured enough turmoil sticking by us through the darkest stretches of that whole sordid mess with Derek and Belinda. A twisted smirk crossed my lips as I recalled the high-profile legal battle erupted when Alex contested the lottery winnings. Derek's snarling, bombastic attempts to claim the whole jackpot for himself were swiftly shut down by a mountain of authenticated evidence and a restraining order. Meanwhile, Belinda's desperate gambit to sue me for defamation and emotional damages imploded before it even left the ground after the avalanche of receipts I produced, exposing her as a shameless con artist and grifter, only out for self-gain. By the time the dust settled, she and Derek were both pariah, bankrupted by legal fees and public scrutiny into their grifting ways. The power couple delusion was shattered utterly. And through it all, Alex remained a steady, supportive ally through the darkest days. A true friend who never judged, only encouraged me to channel the vindictive anger into something constructive. That thought made my steps lighter as I strode into the towering lobby, drinking in the sights and sounds of my creation coming to life. Just off the polished marble floors, a cluster of women from our marketing team huddled around a television monitor, eagerly reviewing edits for our latest female empowerment campaign. "Looking amazing, ladies," I called out, eliciting a chorus of cheers and warm greetings. Behind the front desk, my new assistant looked up and waved, crisp and professional on the outside, with the soul of a fearless fighter against injustice. That was the foundation Nora and I were determined to establish, a blazing torch to illuminate every dark path other women might tread on their quest for rebirth and renewal. As I rode the elevator upwards, my mind drifted back to those dark days when Derek's callous betrayal had nearly broken me. If someone had told me then about the self-made phoenix I would emerge as down the line, I might have laughed at the absurdity of it. Yet here I was, at the precipice of an empire built from the ashes of delusion and deceit. An unstoppable force, fueled by a simple credo: never let ego, complacency, or the agendas of others blind you to your own potential and self-worth. The doors slid open to reveal my corner office awaiting, a sprawling sunlit sanctuary of inspiration and possibility. Striding to the floor-to-ceiling windows, I let my gaze roam across the endless cityscape sprawled out below. This life, this invigorating hustle and soaring ambition, it was the polar opposite to the empty, vapid delusions Derek once accused me of stunting. And in that moment, I felt pity for him more than anything. An eternity confined to his own narcissistic hell while I flourished in the light. That was the ultimate revenge. As I settled into my plush leather chair, the phone began ringing shrilly, jarring me from my reverie. With a self-assured smile, I scooped up the receiver. "Lila Jefferson," I answered crisply. "Let's get to work."
The crystal champagne flute shattered in my grip, sending shards across the marble floor of my own dining room. Silence fell over the birthday gathering as all eyes turned to me, but I barely noticed the sting of the cut on my palm. All I could focus on was the satisfied smirk on Vivian's face as she finished her latest verbal assault. My name is Adeline, and this was supposed to be my 35th birthday celebration. Instead, it became yet another stage for my mother-in-law's favorite performance. Let's remind everyone how inadequate Adeline is. Oh dear, do be careful with the crystal. Some of us know how to handle fine things, Vivian said, adjusting her pearl necklace. Though I suppose we can't all have that natural grace, can we? I watched a drop of blood fall from my palm to the floor. My husband, Forrest, predictably, became intensely interested in his phone screen. "Here, let me help you with that." Livia, my best friend, appeared at my side with a napkin, wrapping it around my hand. Her eyes met mine with silent support. "Really, Adeline," Vivian continued, addressing the room more than me. "I told Forrest he should have let me plan this party. The catering is adequate, I suppose. But these plates? From Target. At least you tried, dear." The plates were hand-painted Italian ceramic, but I didn't bother correcting her. I'd learned long ago that facts were irrelevant in Vivian's world. Actually, I picked those plates. Trinity, my coworker, spoke up from across the room. They're from that little boutique in Milan, the one featured in Architectural Digest last month. Vivian's smile tightened. Well, they certainly look mass-produced. Randolph, my business partner, cleared his throat. Speaking of production, Adeline, didn't you just close that major deal with— Oh, please, Vivian interrupted, waving her hand dismissively. Let's not discuss business at a social gathering. It's so nouveau riche. She turned to Forrest. Darling, remember when I threw your 35th? Now that was a party. The governor attended, remember? I excused myself to the kitchen, clutching the bloody napkin. Livia followed, closing the door behind us. I swear to God, Adeline, one of these days I'm going to— Don't, I cut her off, running my hand under cold water. It's not worth it. The hell it's not. Did you see Forrest just sitting there, while his mother— I saw. My voice was steadier than I felt. I always see. The kitchen door swung open, and Trinity slipped in, followed by Randolph. Your mother-in-law is currently explaining to everyone how you clearly couldn't afford proper lighting for the dining room, Trinity reported, which is hilarious, considering you literally designed the lighting system for half the high-rises downtown. You can't keep letting her do this, Randolph said quietly. You're one of the most successful architects in the city. You've won awards. You're about to— I know. I dried my hands, straightening my shoulders. Trust me, I know. The door opened again, and Forrest poked his head in. Mother's wondering where everyone went. The cake. Of course, I replied, my voice honey-sweet. We wouldn't want to keep your mother waiting. Back in the dining room, Vivian had positioned herself at the head of the table, my seat. As the staff brought out the cake, she began regaling everyone with stories about Forrest's childhood, pointedly excluding me from every anecdote. I watched her hold court, saw how she'd orchestrated the entire evening to remind me of my place in her hierarchy, watched my husband of 10 years pretend not to notice, felt the weight of every slight, every dismissal, every carefully crafted insult she'd delivered over the years. Something inside me shifted. Maybe it was the way the cut on my palm throbbed. Maybe it was catching Vivian's reflection in the window, preening as she commanded everyone's attention. Or maybe it was simply time. Actually, I said, standing up, I'm not feeling well. I think we should end the evening here. Vivian's eyes gleamed with triumph. Oh dear, not handling your wine well. I did try to teach you about proper portions. I met her gaze steadily. Thank you all for coming, especially you, Vivian. You've made this evening unforgettable. As guests began gathering their things, I caught snippets of Vivian's stage whispers. Poor dear, never could handle hosting. And Forrest deserves someone more capable. I stood at the door, accepting hugs and goodbyes, the cut on my palm a constant reminder. Livia squeezed my arm as she left, Trinity and Randolph both giving me meaningful looks. Later, as I lay in bed, listening to Forrest apologize for his mother being herself, I made a decision. This would be the last birthday where Vivian Anderson made me feel small. I had something coming that would change everything. And this time, I wouldn't be the one caught off guard. The morning after my disastrous birthday party, I sat in my office, staring at the email that would change everything. The board's decision was unanimous. I would be the new CEO of Anderson and Steele Architecture, effective immediately. You haven't told Forrest yet, have you? Randolph leaned against my door frame, 2 coffee cups in hand. I shook my head, accepting the coffee he offered. He thinks I'm still just the creative director. Actually, he thinks I'm playing at being creative director. Your husband seriously doesn't know you own 40% of the company. Vivian convinced him years ago that my position here was a courtesy appointment. I took a sip of coffee, remembering that conversation. She told everyone at the country club I was the office decorator. Randolph's laugh was sharp. The office decorator who designed the new performing arts center and just landed the international airport contract. My phone buzzed, a message from Vivian. Darling, I've taken the liberty of scheduling you for etiquette refresher courses. Last night was quite embarrassing. Delete it, Randolph advised, watching my face darken. Focus on what's coming. Speaking of which, I pulled up my calendar. The International Architecture Awards Gala is in 3 weeks, where you'll be announced as both CEO and recipient of the Innovation in Sustainable Design Award. Randolph grinned. Have you decided how you're going to play it? Before I could answer, Louisa, my assistant, rushed in. Adeline, your mother-in-law is in the lobby. She's insisting on taking you to lunch to discuss your behavior. Perfect timing, I said, standing up. Send her up. Randolph raised an eyebrow. You sure? Trust me. 5 minutes later, Vivian swept into my office like she owned it, designer handbag swinging. Really, Adeline, that display last night was unacceptable. What will people think? About what specifically, Vivienne? I remained seated, watching her search for the most commanding position in the room. Your emotional outburst, the broken glass, leaving your own party early. I've always said Forrest needed someone more stable. Stable, I repeated, thinking of the contract paper in my desk drawer. Like the foundation of a building. She waved her hand dismissively. Don't try to talk business, dear. It doesn't suit you. Now, about these etiquette classes. I have a better idea, I interrupted, pressing the intercom. Louisa, could you bring in the Thompson portfolio? Louisa appeared with the blueprints for our latest project, a sustainable luxury hotel that had made headlines. What's this? Vivian asked, irritation creeping into her voice. The Thompson Hotel project. You mentioned it at the country club last month. Said it was a shame your son's company had lost the bid to some upstart firm. Her perfectly lined lips tightened. Well, yes, it was quite disappointing for Forrest. Except Anderson and Steele won that bid. I spread the plans across my desk. My design, my pitch, my project. Don't be ridiculous. Forrest would have told me. Forrest doesn't know. I met her eyes. Just like he doesn't know about the airport contract, or the Performing Arts Center, or the 40% ownership stake I have in this company. The color drained from her face. You're lying. The International Architecture Awards Gala is in 3 weeks. You should come. Bring Forrest. I'm sure you'll both find it educational. She stood abruptly. I don't know what game you're playing. No games, Vivian. Just business. I smiled. Which, as you've pointed out, I know nothing about. After she stormed out, Randolph reappeared. That was bold. She won't tell Forrest, I said, gathering the blueprints. Her pride won't let her admit she was wrong about me. She'll come to the gala expecting to prove me a liar. And instead, she'll watch me accept my award and CEO position in front of every major player in the industry. I paused. Including the governor she's so proud of knowing. Trinity poked her head in. Was that the dragon lady I saw leaving? She looked like she'd swallowed a lemon. More like the first taste of her own medicine, Randolph said. My phone buzzed again. Livia, this time. Lunch. Need to hear about the aftermath of last night. Go, Randolph urged. You've earned a break. We'll finish the gala preparations tomorrow. As I gathered my things, Trinity asked, Are you sure you want to wait 3 weeks? You could just tell Forrest tonight. I thought about all the dinner parties where Vivian had belittled me. All the times Forrest had looked away. All the years of carefully constructed humiliation. Some lessons, I said, are better learned in public. Walking to meet Livia, I felt lighter than I had in years. The cut on my palm had scabbed over, but I pressed it gently, remembering. Sometimes you need to bleed a little before you can heal properly. And sometimes, the best revenge isn't served cold. It's served under spotlights, with an audience, and a standing ovation. The invitations have to be perfect, I told Louisa, watching her sort through sample cards, especially the one for Vivienne. Gold embossing, heavy cardstock, and just pretentious enough to make her feel special. Louisa held up an elegant cream-colored invitation. Exactly. She needs to think this is Forrest's moment. We were in my office after hours, finalizing details for the gala. The city lights twinkled through the floor-to-ceiling windows, reminding me of all the nights I'd spent here building my career while Vivian assumed I was getting manicures or shopping. Speaking of Forrest, Louisa said carefully, he called earlier, asked about your late nights at the office. What did you tell him? That you're working on a special project, which isn't a lie. My phone lit up with a text from Forrest. Mother's worried about you, says you're acting erratic. Dinner at her house tomorrow. Erratic, I muttered, showing Louisa the message. 3 weeks of focusing on work instead of attending her charity luncheons. And suddenly I'm erratic. Mrs. Anderson did stop by reception twice this week, Louisa revealed, trying to get information about your schedule. Before I could respond, Trinity burst into the office. We have a situation. Vivienne was just at LeBlanc. LeBlanc was where all the society wives had their weekly gossip sessions, disguised as lunch. And, I asked, though I already knew it wouldn't be good. She was telling everyone you're having some sort of breakdown. Said you've been making wild claims about your position here, that you're embarrassing Forrest. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Of course she is. That's not all, Trinity continued. She's been calling board members' wives, trying to dig up dirt on you. Let her dig, I said, turning to my computer. Louisa, send out the invitations tomorrow. Trinity, make sure the press releases are ready to go the morning after the gala. Already done, Louisa confirmed. Though I did have to promise the governor's office 3 separate interviews to guarantee his attendance. Perfect. Vivian would never miss a chance to network with him. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Randolph. Turn on Channel 7 News, now. Trinity grabbed the remote, and we watched as the evening news covered a story about the Thompson Hotel project. The reporter was interviewing someone I recognized, one of Vivienne's closest friends. Concerns about the project's leadership, the woman was saying. Sources say the firm may not be as stable as they claim. That witch, Trinity breathed. She's trying to sabotage the project. I picked up my phone, dialing Randolph. Tell me you're handling this. Already on it. I've got statements from our major investors ready to go. And the Thompson family is willing to do an interview tomorrow, confirming their confidence in us. Good. And Randolph, make sure they specifically mention who designed their hotel. After hanging up, I turned to find both Louisa and Trinity staring at me. What? Are you sure you want to keep waiting? Trinity asked. She's escalating. That's exactly why we wait, I said, pulling up the gala seating chart. She's getting sloppy, making mistakes. By the time the gala arrives, she'll have shown everyone exactly who she is. Louisa's phone chimed. The venue manager needs final numbers for the seating arrangements. Put Vivian at table 1, I instructed. Front and center. I want her to have the perfect view when everything falls apart. Trinity leaned over my shoulder, studying the chart. You're seating her with the governor's wife, bold, and the wives of every board member she's been calling. Let them see her reaction up close. My phone lit up with another text from Forrest. Made reservations at Mother's Club for Friday. She wants to discuss your behavior. You're not going, are you? Trinity asked, reading the message. Oh, I'm going. I smiled. In fact, I'm going to be perfectly pleasant. Let her think she's winning. Louisa started gathering the invitation samples. Should I cancel your actual Friday meetings? No need. I'll have lunch with Vivienne, then head straight to the airport to sign the international contract. She can spend the afternoon telling everyone how I waste my time while I'm literally expanding the company globally. A knock at the door made us all look up. It was the cleaning lady, looking apologetic. Sorry to interrupt, but there was a woman here earlier, asking questions about Ms. Adeline's schedule. She said she was family. Let me guess, I said. Elegant, perfectly coiffed, wearing pearls? The cleaner nodded. Next time, tell her I'm in a very important meeting. Don't specify what kind. I turned to Trinity and Louisa. Vivian's getting desperate. She knows something's coming, but she can't figure out what. 3 weeks, Trinity said. 3 weeks, I confirmed, looking out at the city I was helping build, one design at a time. and then we'll see who's really erratic. Trinity cornered me in the office kitchen 2 weeks before the gala, her face unusually serious. We need to talk, now. She practically dragged me into the conference room, closing the door behind us. I was at La Maison last night. La Maison was Vivienne's favorite restaurant, where she held court with her social circle every Wednesday. And Forrest was there, with her. Trinity's hands were shaking slightly. You need to hear what I recorded. She pulled out her phone, and Vivienne's distinctive voice filled the room. Really, darling, I've been saying for years she's not suitable. Remember that lovely girl I introduced you to last summer? The one from the right family? Mother, please. Forrest's voice, tired but not disagreeing. Adeline's been acting strange lately. But strange? She's delusional, claiming she's some sort of executive here. I spoke with Margaret, and she assured me the board would never allow such a thing. We need to consider having her evaluated. I'm sure it won't come to that. Of course it will, and when it does, we'll make sure everyone knows it was for her own good. The divorce will be much cleaner that way. The recording ended. I sat very still, my hands flat on the conference table. There's more, Trinity said quietly. They're planning something for the gala. I couldn't hear exactly what, but Vivienne kept mentioning making sure you're exposed properly. Did you tell anyone else about this? Just Randolph. He's pulling together contingency plans for. The door opened, and Forrest walked in. Trinity and I froze. Adeline, your assistant said you were in here. He looked between us. Everything okay? Fine, I said smoothly. Just reviewing some presentations. Did you need something? Mother wants to know if you're free for tea tomorrow. She's concerned about you. I bet she is, I thought. Actually, I have a client meeting tomorrow. Very important. You've been saying that a lot lately. He frowned. Mother thinks. I'm sure she does. I stood up. Tell her I'm sorry to miss tea. I'm sure she can find someone else to critique for an afternoon. That's not fair, Adeline. She's trying to help. Trinity made a sound that might have been a laugh or a cough. Was there anything else? I asked. Some of us have work to do. After he left, Trinity turned to me. You're still not going to tell him about the CEO position? No, let him find out with everyone else. I meant about the recording, about his mother plotting your downfall over crème brûlée. I gathered my papers. He wouldn't believe it. He never has. Back in my office, Randolph was waiting. Trinity told you. I nodded. We should move up the announcement, he said, before Vivienne can. No, we stick to the plan, but, I smiled slightly. Maybe we add some insurance. I pressed the intercom. Louisa, get me the governor's office, and then call Livia. Tell her I need her PR expertise. That evening, I arrived home to find Forrest in the living room, looking troubled. Mother says you've been spreading rumors about the company, he said without preamble, that you're causing problems with investors. Interesting. I poured myself a glass of wine. And what do you think? I think you've been working too hard. Maybe you should take a break, let someone else handle things for a while. Someone your mother approves of, he sighed. Why do you always make everything about her? My phone buzzed. A message from Livia. Press release drafted. Governor's wife confirmed for pre-gala interview. You're going to love this. You're right, I told Forrest. Let's not talk about your mother. Let's talk about the gala instead. You are coming, aren't you? Mother says it's important for appearances. Of course she does, I thought. Good. It's going to be quite memorable. Later that night, I received another text, this time from Trinity. Vivienne's been calling board members again, trying to suggest you're unstable, unfit for leadership. I replied, perfect. Let her dig her own grave. Then I called Randolph. Move Margaret to Vivienne's table at the gala. The board member's wife, who's been feeding her false information. Exactly. I want them to have front row seats to each other's humiliation. You're scary sometimes, you know that. I learned from the best, I said, thinking of all Vivienne's careful social manipulations over the years, the students about to surpass the teacher. After hanging up, I stood at my home office window, looking out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, Vivian was probably plotting my professional demise over expensive wine, while Forrest nodded along, convinced he was being supportive by staying neutral. 2 weeks. 2 weeks until everything changed. Let them plot. Let them scheme. Let them think they know what's coming. They had no idea. You need to see this, Livia announced, bursting into my office with her laptop. Someone sent me an email from an anonymous account 1 week before the gala, and the tension was building. I gestured for her to sit. It's a series of emails between Vivian and several board members' wives, Livia continued, turning the screen toward me. Dating back months, she's been systematically trying to undermine you. I scanned the emails, my jaw tightening. She told them I was sleeping with clients to get contracts. Keep reading. The emails got worse. Vivian had crafted an elaborate narrative about my supposed mental instability, suggesting I was embezzling company funds to support a gambling addiction. She'd even hinted that my recent erratic behavior might be drug-related. Who sent this to you? I asked. Margaret. Livia smiled. Apparently, she's been playing double agent, recording conversations, saving emails. She's got videos of Vivian at social events, openly plotting to have you removed from the company. Trinity appeared in the doorway. The governor's wife is here for the pre-gala interview. Perfect timing. I stood, straightening my jacket. Livia, get those emails to our legal team. Trinity, make sure the photographer gets good shots of me with the governor's wife. The interview took place in our main conference room, overlooking the city. Mrs. Bradford, the governor's wife, was surprisingly warm. I've been following your work for years, she said, as the photographer set up. That performing arts center design was brilliant. Funny, I replied. Vivienne Anderson told me you found it garish and nouveau riche. Mrs. Bradford's eyebrows shot up. Did she? Interesting, considering I specifically praised it at the last charity board meeting. She was there. She does seem to have trouble remembering certain things, I said diplomatically. After the interview, Randolph pulled me aside. We've got another problem. Viviana has been calling our major clients, trying to warn them about my supposed instability. Worse, she's telling them the company is about to undergo major leadership changes, suggesting they might want to delay any pending contracts. My phone buzzed. Forrest. Mother wants us both for dinner tonight. Says it's important. Go, Randolph advised, reading the message over my shoulder. Keep her thinking she's in control. Vivian's house was exactly what you'd expect. A showcase of old money and careful curation. That evening, she'd set an elaborate table for 3. Darling, she greeted me with air kisses. You look tired. Those late nights at the office must be so draining. Actually, I feel great. I took my seat. The gala preparations are coming along beautifully. About that, she poured wine with practiced grace. I've been hearing concerning things. Perhaps it would be better if you didn't attend. Forrest shifted uncomfortably. Mother. No, darling, this needs to be said. Adeline, your recent behavior has been troubling, making grandiose claims about your position, spreading rumors. What claims specifically concern you, Vivienne? She waved her hand dismissively. This fantasy about being some sort of executive. Really, dear, it's embarrassing. My phone buzzed again. A message from Louisa. Final seating chart approved. Press confirmed. Governor's office sent over his speech. He specifically mentions your achievements. You know what's interesting? I said, putting my phone away. How hard you've worked to keep me small. All these years, every slight, every dismissal, every carefully orchestrated humiliation. The color drained from Vivian's face. I don't know what your... The emails were particularly creative. Drug addiction, gambling. You must have stayed up nights crafting those stories. Forrest looked between us, confused. What emails? Nothing you need to worry about, darling. Vivian said quickly. Adeline is clearly what? I stood up. Unstable? Delusional. Better be careful with those accusations, Vivian. They might come back to haunt you. Is that a threat? No, I smiled. It's a preview. See you at the gala. Outside, Forrest caught up to me. Adeline, wait, what's really going on? I looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time in weeks. You know, for years I wondered why you never defended me. Now I realize you're just like her, so convinced of your own superiority that you can't see what's right in front of you. What's that supposed to mean? Come to the gala, I said, getting into my car. Find out. As I drove away, my phone lit up with messages from Trinity, Livia, and Randolph, all confirming different pieces falling into place. 1 week, 7 days, until Vivian's carefully constructed world came crashing down. And this time, I wouldn't be the one picking up the pieces. The Grand Plaza Ballroom glittered with 1,000 lights, each one reflecting off the crystal chandeliers I'd specifically chosen for tonight. Guests in formal wear mingled, champagne flowed, and the air buzzed with anticipation. Vivienne just arrived, Livia reported through my earpiece. She's wearing red. Of course she was. She always wore red when she wanted to be the center of attention. Everything's set, I asked, adjusting my black designer gown. Press is in position, governor's on his way, and… Livia paused. Margaret just texted. She has the video ready. I watched from the mezzanine as Vivian made her entrance, Forrest trailing behind her. She headed straight for the governor's wife, already playing her social games. Ready? Randolph appeared beside me. Born ready. We descended the grand staircase together, and I felt Vivian's eyes lock onto us immediately. She was probably wondering why I looked so confident, why I was entering with one of the firm's founding partners. Adeline, she air-kissed my cheeks. Darling, you really should have consulted me about the seating arrangements. There seemed to be some unfortunate mix-ups. No mix-ups, I assured her. Everyone is exactly where they should be. Forrest approached, looking uncomfortable in his tuxedo. The governor's asking for you. Is he? Vivian preened. Well, we shouldn't keep him waiting. He's asking for Adeline, Forrest clarified. The flash of anger in Viviana's eyes was quick but unmistakable. Well, I'm sure he'd like to see us all. Before she could maneuver her way into the conversation, Trinity appeared. Adeline, the press needs you for photos. With the governor. I could feel Vivian following as I made my way through the crowd, trying to insert herself into the moment. The governor greeted me warmly. There's our woman of the hour, he boomed. My wife hasn't stopped talking about your interview. Vivian pushed forward. Oh, Governor, you remember me. We met at the… Later, please, his aide interrupted. Photos first. I posed with the governor while Vivian seethed in the background. Cameras flashed, capturing what would become tomorrow's business section headlines. Speech time in 10 minutes, Louisa whispered as she passed by. I made my way to my seat, noting with satisfaction that Vivian was positioned perfectly, close enough to see everything, but not part of the main action. What's going on? Forrest asked, taking his assigned seat beside his mother. Why is everyone treating this like it's your event? Because it is, I replied simply. The governor took the podium, and the room fell silent. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, we're here tonight to celebrate excellence in architecture and design. But more than that, we're here to recognize a visionary leader. I saw Vivian lean forward, probably assuming he meant Forrest. Someone who has transformed our city's skyline, who has brought sustainable design to the forefront of modern architecture. Someone who, as of today, becomes the youngest CEO in her field. The color drained from Vivian's face. Please join me in congratulating Adeline, not only on her appointment as CEO of Anderson & Steele Architecture, but also as this year's recipient of the International Innovation in Sustainable Design Award. The room erupted in applause. I stood, making my way to the podium, as Vivian grabbed Forrest's arm. This is ridiculous, I heard her hiss. Do something. But there was nothing he could do. The screens around the ballroom lit up with images of my projects, my achievements, my journey to this moment. Thank you, Governor, I began. This is an incredible honor. From my position at the podium, I could see everything. Margaret smirking at Vivian, the board members nodding approvingly, the press furiously taking notes. Architecture isn't just about buildings, I continued. It's about foundation, structure, truth. I paused, meeting Vivian's eyes. Sometimes, people try to undermine that foundation. They spread rumors, create false narratives, attempt to destroy what others have built. The screen switched to display emails. Vivian's emails. Her careful campaign of destruction, laid bare for all to see. But a well-built structure can withstand any attack, I said, as gasps and murmurs filled the room. As long as its foundation is solid. Vivian stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. Forrest sat frozen, finally seeing the truth he'd ignored for so long. To everyone who supported me, who believed in my vision, thank you. I raised my glass. And to those who doubted, who tried to tear me down, I smiled directly at Vivienne. Thank you too. You taught me exactly what kind of leader I don't want to be. The applause was deafening, but I barely heard it. I was too focused on Vivian's face as her carefully constructed social empire began to crumble. And this was only the beginning of the evening. The chaos that erupted after my speech was exactly what I'd anticipated. Vivian stood at her table, her perfectly manicured hands gripping the back of her chair as her social circle physically distanced themselves from her. This is slander, she announced to anyone who would listen. I'll sue. With what evidence? Margaret asked sweetly, holding up her phone. I have recordings of every conversation where you plotted against Adeline. Would you like me to play them? Forrest finally found his voice. Adeline, what is all this? Your mother's been busy, I said, approaching their table. Want to hear her plans for my psychiatric evaluation? Or maybe the rumors she spread about drug addiction? The gambling stories were particularly creative. Mother? Forrest turned to Vivienne. What is she talking about? She's lying. Vivienne's voice rose shrilly. She's manipulating everyone, just like she manipulated her way into this position. Trinity stepped forward, tablet in hand. Actually, we have the board's unanimous vote recorded, along with documentation of every project Adeline has led over the past 5 years. Would you like to see the revenue figures? The governor's wife approached, her face stern. Vivian, I think it's best if you step down from the hospital board. We can't have someone who engages in character assassination representing our charity. But I've been on that board for 20 years. Vivian's carefully crafted facade began to crack. Yes, Mrs. Bradford replied. 20 years of taking credit for other people's work, just like you tried to do with Adeline's achievements. More people were gathering now, years of Vivian's victims, finally finding their voice. Remember when she said my catering business was quaint? One woman said, then tried to steal my contracts. She told my husband I was having an affair with my business partner. Another added, nearly ruined my marriage. Forrest stood up, looking lost. I don't understand. Mother, these people are telling the truth, I finished for him. Just like I've been trying to tell you for years. You ungrateful little. Vivian lunged forward, but Randolph stepped between us. Security, he called calmly. I believe Mrs. Anderson needs some air. As 2 discreet security guards approached, Vivian played her final card. Forrest, are you going to let them treat your mother this way? But Forrest was staring at the screens, still displaying evidence of his mother's campaign against me. All those times you said Adeline was imagining things. I did it for you. Vivian's mascara was starting to run. She was never good enough for you, never good enough for our family. Good enough? I laughed. I built half the buildings in this city's skyline. I turned this company's profits around. I won international awards. The only thing I wasn't good enough for was your ego. Please escort Mrs. Anderson out, Randolph instructed security, and make sure the press gets her statement about suing us. I'm sure they'll be very interested in discovery. As Vivian was led away, still protesting, the governor approached. Impressive handling of a difficult situation, he said. Your new sustainable city project proposal. I'd like to discuss it over lunch next week. Of course, Governor. My assistant will set it up. The party gradually returned to normal, though the buzz was decidedly different now. I watched as Vivian's former friends huddled in groups, probably realizing they needed to realign their social allegiances. Adeline. Forrest touched my arm. I don't know what to say. That's not surprising, I replied. You haven't known what to say for 10 years. I never knew she was doing all this. You thought I was overreacting, imagining things, being difficult. I turned to face him fully. Tell me, what's your excuse for all the times you saw her behavior firsthand and did nothing? He had no answer. That's what I thought. I gestured to Louisa, who appeared with a manila envelope. These are divorce papers. Your mother was right about one thing. Our marriage is over. Just not for the reasons she planned. You can't be serious. Actually, I've never been more serious. I handed him the envelope. I designed my life, just like I design my buildings, with careful planning, strong foundations, and no room for toxic structures. As he stood there, envelope in hand, looking as lost as I'd ever seen him, I felt nothing but relief. Enjoy the rest of the party, I said. I have a city to build. I walked away to where my real support system waited. Trinity, Livia, Randolph, and Louisa. Behind me, I could hear the whispers, see the phones coming out as people spread the news of Vivian's downfall. Well, Livia said, handing me a fresh glass of champagne. That was something. That, I replied, was just the foundation. Wait until they see what I build next. The night wasn't over, but the hardest part was done. I'd finally broken free of the prison Vivian had built around me, brick by careful brick, and I'd done it by building something stronger, my own empire of truth. The morning sun streamed through my office windows as I reviewed the final designs for the Sustainable City project. The governor's endorsement had fast-tracked everything, and construction would begin next month. Package for you, Louisa said, placing a thick envelope on my desk. Hand-delivered. I recognized Forrest's handwriting immediately. Inside was a letter, along with what looked like old photographs. Also, Vivian was spotted house hunting in Florida, Louisa added. Apparently, the social exile here became too much. How the mighty fall, I murmured, unfolding the letter. Before I could read it, Trinity burst in. Turn on the news, now. The business channel was running a feature on women in architecture, using my story as their centerpiece. But what caught my attention was the crawl at the bottom of the screen. Vivian Anderson resigns from all charity boards amid scandal. Full story at 11. That's not even the best part, Trinity grinned. Margaret just called. Apparently, Vivian tried to join 3 different country clubs in Palm Beach. They all rejected her membership. Karma, Louisa said, is a beautiful thing. I turned my attention back to Forrest's letter, reading aloud. Adeline, I found these while clearing out Mother's house. She kept a file on you, documenting every achievement she tried to diminish. Looking at them now, I see what I refused to see before. Your talent, your vision, your strength. The photos showed my early projects, newspaper clippings of my awards, even sketches I thought I'd lost years ago. There's more, Trinity said, reading over my shoulder. I won't ask for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I want you to know I'm getting help, learning to see the patterns Mother created, the way she manipulated everything and everyone. The divorce papers are signed. The house is yours. It's time I built my own life. Without Mother's blueprint, Randolph appeared in the doorway, ready for the board meeting. Just a minute, I gathered the photos, pausing at one of my first design that won an award. The one Vivian had dismissed as amateur. The boardroom was full when I entered. These meetings felt different now. No more subtle undermining. No whispered doubts about my capabilities. The Sustainable City project is generating unprecedented interest, Randolph announced. Thanks to Adeline's innovative design, we've secured funding for the next decade of development. My phone buzzed, a message from Livia. Lunch, got tea to spill, about Vivian's failed attempt to join the Garden Society. One more item, I said to the board. I'd like to propose a mentorship program for young female architects. Give them what I never had: support, recognition, and a clear path to leadership. The vote was unanimous. As people filed out, Margaret lingered. You know, she said, watching Vivian's downfall has been satisfying. But watching you rise, that's been inspiring. Back in my office, I found another surprise: a young woman waiting nervously with her portfolio. I'm sorry to interrupt, she said, standing quickly. Your assistant said you might have a minute. I'm graduating from architecture school, and after seeing your story, I thought about all the doors Vivian had tried to close, all the talent she'd tried to suppress. Come in, I said. Show me what you've got. Later, walking through the city with Livia, I pointed out my buildings, each one a testament to surviving Vivian's attempts to destroy me. Look what came today, Livia said, showing me her phone. The local paper's society page featured Vivian at a small Florida cafe, alone, no pearls in sight. The headline read, "Former Society Queen's Fall from Grace Continues." You know what's better than revenge? I asked, stopping to admire the performing arts center I'd designed. Success, real, earned, undeniable success. Speaking of success, Livia nodded toward a construction site across the street. Isn't that where your new women's business center will be? Breaking ground next week. We're calling it the Phoenix Center. Rising from the ashes? Livia smiled. Something like that. My phone chimed, an email from the governor's office, confirming my appointment to the state's Urban Development Board, the position Vivian had coveted for years. Perfect timing, I said, showing Livia the email. The board meets in that building, right there, the one I designed last year. We laughed together, standing in the shadow of my creation. Around us, the city pulsed with life, each building telling its own story. But mine was written in steel and glass, reaching toward the sky, impossible to ignore or diminish. I'd built something Vivian could never tear down, a legacy of truth, strength, and redemption. And I was just getting started. Come on, I told Livia. I've got a city to rebuild. This time, no one would stand in my way.